Okay, round of applause for Claire, please.
Thank you. Hello. Hi, I kind of regret doing this now because I didn't know the last talk was going to be what it's about. It was a great talk, by the way. There was a lot of great insights, some stuff I learned as well. But some of my slides are about the same sort of thing. But my ethos coming into this is you're a small indie team, you either do or do not have a marketeer, you just want to know the bite-sized bits of how to hit the ground running with little to no budget at all. What was said in the last talk is very true. There are no guarantees, there are people that have different ideas about things. The great thing is about not having a budget is that you can afford to A/B test everything because you don't need to worry that you've wasted money. So if you're thinking of coming out of this here talk with hopes of just definitive answers for success, that's silly. Don't think like that at all. If you think that you can make millions by just having, a small amount of budget, again, I'm sorry if I got your enthusiasm levels up. This is just to really help you know what to do to keep yourself steady and know that it'll probably not get you in the red if you're a small team and you just need to hit the ground running. So let's see how this goes. I'm Claire Sharkey. My background is 14 plus years, it's actually 16 plus. My specialties are in marketing and PR and brand. The reason that I'm telling you this is I don't have any degrees in anything to do with the job that I've been doing for the past 16 years. I was training to be an architect and an engineer, and then I was on the dole for ages, and I got a job in marketing and had to learn everything from the ground up, and then apply that there to the industry that I've been in for the past 14, 16 years, the games industry. And I think that's very indicative of marketing in general. You are always learning. There are some things that are constant, but we always have to be ready to adapt. I love bread, that's great. Not helpful to anybody compared to the last slide. The topics we're going to be looking at is utilising resources with little to no budget, trying to shed down the advice again to bite-sized bits, best platform practices. We did a lot of great stuff about Steam there. I aim to maybe repeat some of that, maybe counter some of that. Maybe Steve will say, Claire, that's awful advice, and I'll say, it's fine, it's good advice. But just the things that you should be doing. And I thought 27 slides was a lot, but one of the things about when I do talks is I get very nervous and I talk really fast, so this is going to be a breeze. The best thing to do on your platforms to support your KPIs, and then we're going to talk about events. So I could talk about every element of marketing your game, but at that stage this would have turned into a week-long sort of boot camp, and you'd be as well just hire me. The golden rules, again, just to reiterate, there's no guarantees. The market is busier than ever. There's about 20 million games, half of them are in my backlog. AAA and indie can both learn from each other. I have worked for AAA, I have worked for indie, and it is amazing how sometimes people don't realise that even in AAA, there are so many things that indie studios and small teams do that, really boost their game that, AAA people could be doing as well. So this is where I wish the last one hadn't have happened. So basically, I had this really nice idea that I would force an awkward bit of audience participation by asking people, what is the number one social media tool or platform you should use? You should have social media across the board for general SEO. We saw how great TikTok was. I'm a curmudgeon with TikTok, and even I was convinced by that talk earlier. But yeah, the number one social media platform that you should focus on is, can anyone guess? I did this talk like a while ago when I had the slide in, and no one got it, and I felt so smug. But yeah, so Steam, yay. Steam has this sort of Ouroboros effect. I'm just glad I was able to pronounce that. Steam and wish lists, or wishes, which I thought was, I've never heard anyone refer to them as wishes. It's very whimsical. I like it. We hinge a lot on wish lists. Our target shouldn't always just be about wish lists, but if we're being very rough and very rudimentary, I'd like you to maybe think of my version of this talk compared to the last version as being like the bog witch haggard version of it. Wish lists are very important. They feed into Steam. Steam should be your social media platform. It should be the thing that you're always feeding and then bringing stuff back to Steam. And to do that keeps Steam active, keeps us churning. Wishlists do more than that. The next slide will talk about feeding Steam and why it should be your primary social media and marketing tool. So yeah, the Steam's algorithmic gears get greased up the more you feed it. Wishlists are the means of feeding. Hitting 10K, now a lot of these numbers may have changed. This is where a lot of people may differ in like what they think the right answer is. But generally, the sooner you hit 10K, in terms of wish lists, from the moment your game launches officially in Steam, the more Steam starts to really care about you or give a damn about your product store page. So my goal, or the goal that I usually suggest to people, is once you've launched that game on Steam, hit that 10K wish list as soon as possible. Now, if you don't have a budget, that's where we're going to get into how do we do that. And again, that may differ a little bit from the last talk where it was talking about, letting it sit and let it ramp up a little bit. For me personally, I found that just letting it sit doesn't always work unless it does become a viral hit. And if it becomes a viral hit on its own, it'll hit that 10K, ironically. Increased engagement, as an engagement within the site, leads to increased reach. And there we have that Ouroboros effect. So the more people on your store page means an increased likelihood of wish lists, demo plays, play tests, and the thing that we all do care about, we'd love to do art for art, but money's great. Purchases, we want purchases. Steam the greasening. Really question some of my heading titles here. One important way to use Steam is one many neglect, and that's posting frequent updates. The update page is one of the primary ways to keep feeding Steam. And the thing is that it's something you can do where you don't need budget. You do need a bit of time, but the great thing is, and it's easy for me to say, is that a lot of the work you do can be extracted and snippeted upon and then used as content for those Steam updates. What update content should I post and when? With a convenient line going through it so no one can read it. Any content you're happy to be made public. Say now you're working on a game that is about hamsters robbing banks. Draw a sketch of a hamster, post it, Steam update, churning the algorithmic wheels a bit like a hamster churning wheels. Go to a pet store and take some videos of some hamsters. Put it on your store page and say it was, research. Anything at all that is feeding, giving, content updates, keeping the Steam page from just sitting there stagnant is going to do more than it is to do less. And when you don't have money to do big spends, big paid ads, big sort of stuff like that, doing stuff that has little incremental sort of ups is better than doing nothing and letting the game, or the store page decay. At least that's what I believe. And I'm often wrong and happy to be proved wrong. Just not here while being filmed. So, wishlist conversions, again, this is another one. There may be different formulas to it, but there's a general sort of rule that for calculating them. However, there's no guarantee that sales will happen, so take that also with a massive dump truck of salt. The current market is oversaturated. The cost of living also greatly impacts people's disposable income. A lot of people may wait until a game goes on sale to actually, convert their wish list into a sale, which is why I always suggest when you launch a game, launch it with like a special sale or a discount. And that said, we'll look into the general conversion predicting. So the calculation is this, and it's probably one people have seen before, and it's probably one that people might say isn't correct, etc. But it is a general example that people do work with. So say now you have 50K at launch, the conversion rate may be 5%. The price at launch is $29.99. And so then we look here at how that works out. I don't want to go through every line and read it out because then it feels like we're in a maths class, and I don't know if you're already not having fun, so I don't want to add to that. But yeah, I think that's something that's kind of interesting, but it does flux quite a lot. Look at this as a sort of, okay, a baseline, but don't look at it as a sort of, the Bible of things. So yeah, this is really, feeding Steam is really important. Bringing everything back to Steam is super important. If you've not realised, my talk is only really useful if your game is on Steam. If you are making a mobile game, I'm sorry, I'm not the woman for you. But yeah, feeding Steam is really important, and it's something that you can do without having budget and by being a small team yourself. Or if you're a marketeer that has been hired by a team, they're like, we don't have any money for you to do anything crazy and fun. You're like, okay, well listen, I know what I can do without money to help you and help promote the game. Events. I get asked this a lot. I got asked by a few people out there. What are the best events to participate in with limited resources and budget? So Steam partnered events are what I always say, and that's either in-person events or showcases. There's many events of all scales. There's of course value in going to events physically, but there's travel costs, there's accommodation, there's all sorts of reasons. In an ideal world, you would be able to go to physical events as many as you want. We are not in an ideal world, especially lately. But yeah, the pros of going to events are chance meetings and people playing your game and giving feedback. There's all those great things. But if again, we're being very rudimentary and we need to we're a small team, we don't have much money. What can we do for the game to do well in wishlist and therefore do well hopefully on sale? The best thing to do is to work with events that have Steam partnerships. There are a couple of events that have physical events that do have Steam store placements. I always recommend those. There are some very well-known events that happen, some in the UK, that only recently started doing Steam partnerships. So what that means is when the event is on, there will be a front store placement advertising the event and all the games at it, which means that your game is getting foot traffic if it's there, but even if it's not there, it can be part of bundles that are getting digital foot traffic. So Steam is something that when people say to me, what event should I participate in, whether it's paid or not, it should have a Steam connection, because otherwise, you're talking into a sort of a void, which sounds very mean to say, but at the end of the day, we need traffic to our store to sell the games. We're a small indie team. We have no money. The pros and cons of exhibiting physically, again, events of all sorts of scales. There's of course value, but as I said, this is not about giving you the one answer that will rule it all. This is about you realizing that there is no wrong or right answer to this sort of thing. You have to decide. As was said in the last talk, you ultimately have to decide how best to spend your money, if you have money, but it's not just about money, it's about your time. Is your time better spent going at a 3-day event, or is that time better spent on development of the game and creating content that can be used for other events and digital showcases, etc., etc. I always say prepare and hope. One thing I suggest to indie developers, again, no budget, small team, is when it is coming to the stage of submitting your game to be part of showcases like the Mix, Wholesome Direct, etc. They will always usually require an asset. They will require a trailer, they will usually require some sort of video that is usually exclusive to that event. You can mitigate that by, during your development process, having time where you have created assets and are prepared. So when the time comes and all these events are coming, back after back, you are not feeling stressed, you are not feeling, more stressed than usual about creating something to be part of these events. There's a lot of events that you can participate in for free, though it's kind of getting harder these days because events need to make money as well. The only con with that is advanced assets may have old content from old builds, and then you may need to update them anyway. But that's something that I really suggest to people when money and bandwidth is quite tight, but you want to get your game into showcases, which is great for traffic and wish lists. Try and prepare things in advance. Playtesting. This is a very quick one I want to go through, but this is something that you can do for free anywhere. You can, rent out a hovel and turn that into a playtesting place. You do not need to have Playtestings happen at large-scale events where the floor space or the meter per square is probably the majority of your budget. Playtesting can happen in any sort of space at all, and even better, it can happen without a physical space. Online playtesting, beta playtesting, or beta, however you pronounce it, that is something that requires no budget. So the types of playtesting and their activated pacing will vary depending on your game, as with the goal of the test. If you have a large game with a multiplayer mode, you may need to go through alpha and beta. You can do closed testing or public. None of this requires money, requires time. All you really need is the build and a Discord server. Testing then helps you improve the build, but it also helps you improve the community, and grow the wish lists. And then who is allowed is up to you. You can get press into closed testing. Usually I suggest closed play testing because it makes everyone feel a little bit special. You can get influencers in, and this is all stuff that you didn't have to spend any budget or the majority of your budget to do a very strong beat for your game that ticks off a lot of other elements. Some of those elements would have already been talked about today by other people focusing, be it in community or on TikTok, etc. Your KPIs for all these things will always be usually this. You want community growth, you want social media growth, you want to test the game, you want to A/B test features, and you want to instill early player loyalty. Everything can be done for free, essentially. Or if you have a marketeer, this is what a marketeer can do for you from the get-go, and these are the KPIs that they should be looking towards hitting without spending any additional budget. Now, I'm going to go through just some quick, useful information based on things that people have asked me over the years, usually whenever I've given a more in-depth talk, and they've asked me, in the audience, or they've asked me out and about. So we call it a quickfire round. The best time, I believe, to A/B test things is at the beginning, where there's enough pivot time. A lot of stress comes between lack of communication and roadmap transparency. If you want somebody to come on and market your game to the best of their ability with no budget, etc., then the best thing to help them is to give them everything they need. I'm a big fan of roadmaps that are development and marketing all in one sheet. I, as a marketeer, know how you're going, what your milestones are looking like, and how to best, create moments or showcases or put forward things. If I have a thing to suggest and you are not yet there in terms of development, maybe you are able to amend that so it pairs up well. So I think those sort of things really help. The marketeers are not separate individuals, they are there to support your game and support you. Game quality must come before the beat. There is no point in doing a big push for a game you know will underperform. If your demo is CAC, don't put it out. If your game is CAC, don't put it out. I'm not entirely sure about a game not hitting a certain amount of wish lists and then not being pushed. That is very much between you and the publisher sort of thing. I've worked both sides, the indie studio and on the publisher side, and we've never not pushed a game because it didn't hit the wish list. Not pushing a game includes a lot of other elements. You have more money, more time, a lot of promises have to be sort of rejangled, etc. So that's a very case-by-case basis. Don't waste time trying to force viral posts or virality at all. You can't do that. You can't force these sort of things. Don't give up if beats and sales don't work the first time. Someone asked if they did a Q&A or something and only 2 people turned up, what should they do? Do it again. Maybe do it a little bit differently. If it didn't cost you anything but a bit of time that you're able to afford, there's no reason not to do it again. Steam curators, don't bother with them. Do not give your keys to Steam curators. It's a waste of time. The amount of time that you have to put into vetting them is not worth it. Most of them don't play the game, they just get the keys. I loathe Steam curators. I don't like you. You waste everyone's time. But please wishlist the games. don't be pressured into following advice, including mine. Shop around. I think that's a good thing. There are so many different answers, and those answers are not correct all of the time, and sometimes they are. Everything, I believe, and again, it doesn't sound as whimsical and as pro-art, but I think everything should service two main things, two CTAs, call to actions, and that's wish lists and sales. If you do well, make money, you can make more games, and you can get to the point where maybe making games for the sake of making games can get a step higher and being a reality. Don't do early access. This is a very tricky one. Early access is a hard thing for me to justify to an indie studio or an indie game, because what happens is early access is your launch effectively, and between the moment of early access until the game comes out of early access, if you are not able to populate that game with significant updates, then what was the point? There are certain games that really work well for early access because you can put in significant updates that really reward that loyalty from customers who bought the game. Early access, if you are a small indie studio doing certain types of games, is more of a pain than it is worthwhile and costs money, and we don't want to spend money. And then these are just quick little ways. These are the things that when you hire a marketeer, these are the main beats that they will be looking at, and ideally looking to do without spending any money at all. They will look at how to announce the game, how to get the gameplay trailer out there, how to announce the launch date, and then the launch themselves. And everything that we do in between to feed into Steam will also be hopefully supported by being part of partnered showcases. I believe they're very important to getting store traffic, but at the same time, I did say not all answers are correct all the time. And the reason I say that is I have had games in all three of these suggested, these are just examples, events, and some have been paid and some we have got in for free. And I've had multiple games that have had amazing wish lists. I had one game in PC Gaming Show. Within 2 hours, we had got 30,000 wish lists from announcing the game existed. That's great. The next time I did PC Gaming Show with a game with a bigger budget, we got about 300 wish lists. Absolutely dire. So do not assume that everything is a given, and if you've had success with any sort of event one time, do not assume that it will be replicated the next time. Now, this here is going to lead into something. Say now you got gifted or a windfall. We've talked so far about no budget to low budget. Say now you've been given 100,000 to 500,000 purely for marketing. How should you not spend that, I think, is as important as how you could spend it. How you could spend it is its own slide, its own presentation, but how not to spend it is something that I truly believe in. This is the answer if anyone ever says to you, I would like you to spend your entire marketing budget on one event or one showcase. Jeff Keighley comes knocking, lock the door. If somebody says to you, you've won £100,000, you have £500,000, and you're an indie studio, and they say you should spend your entire marketing budget on one showcase, one event, that is a terrible thing to do. I don't think it is in the best interest of any indie dev, and the person that gave you that advice may be the embodiment of evil on earth. That's a bit dramatic, but I've had that happen before. I've had friends who are indie studios that have had consultants say to them, we'll get you into a summer showcase, we'll get you into this here, your entire marketing budget has to go to this. It's a foolish thing to do. If that is all your money on one beat, even worse, if your game is coming out way after that beat. I think people talk a lot about how to grow wishlists. Wishlist drop-offs is a very real thing. If I've announced a game at Christmas time and that game doesn't come out for 2 years, there could be drop-off, especially if that game's money for marketing has all been used on that one beat at the very start. So that's a bit of brash advice that some people mightn't agree with, and maybe you might have to edit it out. For my safety more than anything, but it's what I believe. So thank you. It's over finally. There we go.